After paying off my father's debt and saving the family farm, I came home one day to find a "for sale" sign on the front lawn. My brother stood there with a suitcase and smirked. Dad signed it over to me. Said, "You're just a worker, not an heir." I looked at my father through the window. He wouldn't even meet my eyes. That night, I dug out the old contracts he forgot I had, and what I discovered in the fine print. I never expected to come back home. Harrisonville, Missouri wasn't a place you moved to, it was a place you clawed your way out of. Growing up, I worked that farm every day like a second job. Before school. After school. Weekends. No allowance. No thanks. My dad used to say, "That roof over your head is your paycheck." When I graduated, I left and swore I wasn't coming back. I got a job in Fort Worth working on trucks. Long days, hard work, but I was finally making my own money. I even thought about starting my own garage. I almost did. Then, 4 years ago, Mom called crying. She told me Dad had taken out a bunch of loans and couldn't keep up. They were weeks from losing the farm. She didn't ask me to come home, but she didn't have to. I knew what I had to do. When I got back, the place was barely standing. The barn was sagging like it was going to cave in, fences were busted, cattle gone, the fields were just weeds and rocks. And the debt? $143,000. I saw the papers myself. Dad wouldn't say much. Just sat on the porch drinking and snapping at everyone. But I rolled up my sleeves. I worked my ass off. I took every job I could. Hauling lumber. Repairing diesel engines. Pouring concrete. Weekends, holidays, nights, I didn't stop. Every dime I made went into saving that farm. I fixed the barn roof myself with salvaged metal. I bought cattle one by one from local auctions. I cleared the weeds, planted new crops, set up a rainwater system. I paid off every cent of the debt over 3 years. No help from my brother Dylan. Dylan hadn't even shown his face since Mom's funeral in 2019. He moved to Nashville chasing a dream of being a singer. Last I heard, he was couchsurfing and posting TikToks in cowboy boots with fake twang. Then 3 weeks ago, he showed up. Unannounced. Clean clothes, suitcase, grinning like a cat that just found the cream. He said, "Just visiting." Didn't do a damn thing while he was here. Slept in, sat around, acted like he was above it all. He even asked questions like, "So who technically owns the land now?" I thought it was weird, but I didn't think much of it. Until last Tuesday. I came home from a long haul to Butler. I'd picked up a load of feed and was soaked in sweat and dust. As I turned up the gravel drive, I saw it, a big white "for sale" sign hammered into the front lawn. Dylan was standing beside it, suitcase by his feet, arms folded. He smiled and said, "Dad signed it over to me. Said you're just a worker, not an heir." I laughed at first. I thought it was a joke. Then I looked at the house. Through the screen door, I saw Dad sitting in his recliner. He wouldn't even look at me. Just stared at the TV like I didn't exist. I walked inside. He still didn't look at me. I asked, "Is it true?" He mumbled, "You did your job. Now let it go." That's all he said. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I walked past both of them, straight to the back room. That's where I kept the documents. See, Dad might have thought I was just doing chores, but I kept everything. Every payment I made. Every agreement we signed when he couldn't afford things. I had power of attorney for a while. He signed it so I could negotiate with the bank. And back then, I made sure to cover my ass. I pulled out the folder. It was thick with paper. One contract from 2021 stood out. When we refinanced, the land was temporarily put in my name to avoid foreclosure. He begged me to do it. I remember sitting at the kitchen table while he signed it. In the fine print, there was a clause: if Dad failed to contribute at least 25% to the operation for 2 years, his ownership rights would revert to me. And he hadn't done a single damn thing on the farm since 2022. Also, there was another line. No transfer or sale of ownership permitted without co-signature and written consent of my full name. He signed the farm to Dylan behind my back. That transfer? Legally worthless. I made copies of everything. Dated. Stamped. Witnessed. I called a lawyer in town the next morning, an old family friend named Carla, who always liked Mom. She said, "They screwed up. Big time." But I didn't tell them. I wanted Dylan to think he'd won. Let him keep smirking. Let him keep walking around like the big man. He didn't know the fire he'd lit. I just watched. I waited. I planned. The next few days were strange. Dylan walked around the farm like he owned it. Literally. He gave orders to the workers I'd hired. Told them to start clearing the back pasture. Said he was getting ready for a new era. He even brought in some guy from Kansas City, said he was a developer. I overheard them talking about putting up vacation cabins or some garbage like that. He acted like I was invisible. Dad didn't say much either. He just sat on the porch most days, sipping his morning coffee, pretending this wasn't happening. He wouldn't look me in the eye. I didn't confront either of them. Not yet. I kept going with my usual work, feeding the cattle, maintaining the equipment, checking the fences. But inside, I was boiling. Then one night, I came back late after a delivery, and found the locks changed. My own house. I knocked. No answer. I called Dad's cell. Straight to voicemail. I stood there in the dark, dust on my boots, keys in my hand, completely shut out. The next morning, Dylan finally answered the door, dressed in a polo shirt and loafers, holding a cup of coffee like he was on a damn golf course. "This isn't your place anymore," he said. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." I smiled. That's all I did. Just smiled and walked away. Later that afternoon, I drove into town and filed everything with Carla. The contracts. The old power of attorney. The land agreement. Everything. She said it would take a few days, but once the paperwork processed, I'd be the legal owner again. And until then? I played along. Let Dylan start his little project. Let him spend money, hire people, tell the whole county he was the new king of the hill. What he didn't know was that the bank still had my name on the primary mortgage. The utilities? Still in my name. The property taxes? You guessed it, billed to me. He was building his dream on a foundation I controlled. But it wasn't just about getting the land back anymore. I wanted him to feel it. I reached out to the workers. Quietly. Told them the truth. That legally, nothing Dylan was saying held any water. I showed them the docs. I didn't tell them what to do, I just gave them the facts. One by one, they started walking off the job. Then the Kansas City developer called me. Turns out, he wasn't interested in a lawsuit, and when I faxed him a copy of the land transfer clause, he backed out fast. Dylan was fuming. He cornered me in town one night, outside the diner. Said I was ruining everything. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You should have stuck to your guitar." Then I turned and walked away. But I wasn't done yet. Because I'd just found out something else. Something about Dad. About what he really did behind my back. And the next move? It was going to break this wide open. 2 days later, I was going through the file cabinet in the shed, looking for an old equipment invoice. When I found something I didn't remember filing. It was a manila envelope stuffed behind the back panel, wedged in deep like someone tried to hide it. Inside were copies of checks, some letters, and a contract I had never seen before. The checks were from a company in Nashville. All made out to my dad. Small at first, $200-300. Then a big one. $25,000. The name on the company was Golden Sky Entertainment LLC. I didn't recognize it at first. But I googled it. It was Dylan's label. Fake label, more like. Dylan had set it up under a shell business, made it look legit, and he'd been paying Dad over the last 6 months. Not for music. No. This was a payout. And the contract? It was a backdoor deal. An agreement saying that in exchange for support and cooperation, Dad would name Dylan as heir and sign over the property. It was dated 3 weeks before Dylan showed up at the farm. So this wasn't just betrayal. This was planned, manipulated, bought. I sat in that shed for a long time just staring at that paper. My dad sold me out for a used-up dream and a paycheck. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in my truck with a thermos of coffee, parked just off the field road, and thought about everything I'd done to save this place. The nights I skipped meals. The holidays I worked. The hospital bills I paid when Dad broke his ankle. And they tried to write me out like I was nothing. The next morning, I drove straight to Carla's office. Showed her the new contract and checks. She didn't say anything for a minute. Then she said, "He took a bribe. That's fraud. And coercion." We filed another motion, this time to freeze the title until a judge could rule on the contract's legitimacy. Then I called the county assessor and reported a fraudulent transfer. Called the utility companies and shut off everything under my name. By Friday, Dylan had no water, no electricity, and no legal ground to stand on. That night, I drove up just to watch the lights go out from the edge of the pasture. He stood outside with a flashlight, yelling into the dark. I saw Dad come out too. They argued for a while. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw Dad throw something down and go back inside. But it wasn't over. Because Monday morning, I got a letter. Certified. From a lawyer in Kansas City, Dylan had filed a lawsuit claiming I had coerced Dad into signing the original agreements. He accused me of elder abuse, forgery, and said I had mentally manipulated my father. I didn't even feel angry when I read it. Just tired. I walked into the barn, sat on a hay bale, and thought, they really think they can bury me with lies. But I had something they didn't. The full security footage from the office. The day Dad signed the refinancing forms. The day he signed the power of attorney. My cousin Liam had installed the system after our neighbor got robbed. We forgot about the cameras, but they'd been recording for years. The footage showed Dad, clear as day, reading every page, signing without pressure, talking about how this place would be gone if not for my boy. I copied the files. Sent them to Carla. Now it wasn't just about property. It was about exposing the lies. In court. In public. Dylan wanted to burn my name to the ground. But I was going to burn down everything he built. The court date came 2 months later. It was held at the county courthouse in Harrisonville. The same place where my parents signed their marriage license 40 years ago. The same place where, now, my brother was trying to erase everything I built. I showed up in jeans and boots. Same pair I'd worn working the fields. Dylan showed up in a tailored navy blue suit, hair slicked back, sunglasses like he was a damn celebrity. He walked in with his lawyer, some smooth-talking guy from Kansas City who looked more like a car salesman. Dad didn't come, said he. Didn't want to be in the middle. Which was the biggest lie of all. He was the middle. He let this happen. He took the money. He signed the papers. He chose Dylan. But I wasn't there for his approval anymore. I was there to end this. Dylan's lawyer stood up first, gave a long speech about how I had emotionally manipulated our father, how I used legal tricks to take ownership, and how poor Dylan had come home to find the farm in ruins. I almost laughed. Then Carla stood up. She didn't speak like a lawyer. She spoke like a pissed-off neighbor. She laid out every contract, every clause, every timeline. She showed the court the receipts of me paying the mortgage, the taxes, the repairs. Then she played the footage. Dad, 3 years ago, sitting at the table, glasses on, flipping through every single page of that contract. He wasn't confused. He wasn't pressured. He looked at me and said on video, "You saved us. This farm's yours now." That's how it should be. You could feel the shift in the room. Dylan's lawyer tried to object. Judge overruled. Then Carla handed over the envelope of checks and the fraudulent contract Dylan cooked up. Said, this wasn't a gift. It was a bribe. For silence. For betrayal. The judge asked Dylan to take the stand. He refused. His lawyer tried to talk for him. The judge insisted. Dylan finally took the stand, sweating through his fancy shirt. And that's when I got him. Because while he talked, I pulled out one more thing. A copy of his emails. Turns out, Dylan wasn't just bribing Dad, he was in talks with the developer months before he came home. He never cared about the farm. It was always about flipping it, cashing out, and running back to Nashville. The emails spelled it all out. The judge looked at him and said, "You lied to this court. You tried to cheat your own brother. This isn't a family dispute. This is fraud." Final ruling. The farm legally and solely belonged to me. Dylan's contract was invalid. His countersuit? Dismissed with prejudice. But it didn't end there. The judge ordered Dylan to pay legal fees. Over $30,000. He didn't have it. So the court put a lien on his Nashville apartment. Then Carla filed a separate civil suit, for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We won that too. Dylan owed me another $40,000. By the time it was over, he was broke. His car got repossessed. His apartment went up for sale. His label dissolved. He left town humiliated. Tried to start a GoFundMe online claiming I destroyed his future. It raised $112 before people found the court docs. But the final blow came later. I went to see Dad one last time. He was still living in the house, now alone. He didn't say a word when I walked in. Just stared at the floor. I dropped the envelope of court papers on the table. He asked, "Was it worth it?" I said, "You tell me." "You sold out your son for a liar. For a dream that never loved this land. Now you've got silence and shame." I turned to leave. He said, "I thought you did it for us." I stopped at the door. "No," I said. "I did it because no one else would. You didn't save the farm. I did. You gave it away. I fought to keep it. That's the difference between us. I haven't spoken to him since. The farm's mine now. Fully. Officially. I fixed up the house, added new fencing, expanded the cattle line. Hired local kids to help. Gave full-time jobs to the ones who stuck by me. Every morning, I walk out with my coffee and look over the field. Not because I won, but because they lost. And they lost because they forgot who I was. Not just a worker. Not just the backup son. I was the one who never left when it mattered. And now? They're gone. I'm still here.